When and where were you born?
I was born in Boyle Heights in East LA in 1950 at Murphy Hospital.
Oh,
So I was born in East LA.
Did anyone in your family previously serve in the military before?
My dad did in the Navy during World War II.
What was his job necessarily?
He was in the Navy. I'm not sure exactly what his job was, but the one thing I remember about him, he was telling me just before Pearl Harbor was bombed, he was on a ship that was just leaving Pearl Harbor, going out to sea 20 minutes before they bombed. And the ship had to turn around and come back and fight all the Japanese. They took out a lot of the kamikaze pilot, the airplanes and stuff. So I don't know what his rate was I thought he was the guys that are on the deck. I guess, I don't know if you call them seamen or whatever, but he wasn't down below like me. I was a machinist mate, but I think he was above deck. So that's all I remember.
When did you join the Navy?
1968, December of 68.
You were 18 when you joined?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll tell you a funny story about that if you want to hear that.
Sure.
I went to La Mirada High, we moved to Buena Park in 67, so I still wanted to stay there. So we used to go to Knott's Berry Farm every Friday night, bunch of low-life guys that didn't have any, all they did was just mess around doing drugs and stuff. So one Friday night, this was like in November or October of 68, it was getting pretty tense in Vietnam, and they were really drafting people like crazy. And they had talked about it a few times before that about going into the service, and I just didn't think they were serious about it. So I remember one Friday night they said, "We're going to join the service, Mike. You going to join with us?" I go, "I don't know if I really want to. I just got a scholarship for golf at Cal State Fullerton because I was a scratch golfer for La Mirada High's golf team." And this is back in '68 where you didn't really have to, you could go on the tour, or you didn't have to go to college or anything. But I thought, well, I can go to college for free this way on a scholarship. And I thought about it for a few days, and then I decided, I called the guys up and said, I guess I'm going to go in too. And so I went home and told my dad, I said, "Dad, I'm going to join the Army." He goes, "What about your golf?" I go, "Well, I don't know if I really want to do it or not." And he goes, "You're not going to join the Army. You'll go to Vietnam. I want you to go in the Navy like me." And I said, "Okay." So all four of us went down to the recruiting office. I guess it was in Fullerton, or I forget where it was. And they were asking these guys, all of us, about our draft card. And they brought theirs, and I didn't. I never got one, okay? And I didn't understand. Maybe I didn't come in the mail, or I missed it or something. Because I was kind of a airhead then anyway, so I was always messing around with cars. So they asked me, "Mike, where's your draft card?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I never got it." And they looked me up. I didn't even exist. I had been passed over. I would have never been drafted. Yeah. So they go, "Well, we'll help you out there, Mr. Harold. We'll get you our draft card." And so, anyway, they went in the Army. They went to Germany. I went in the Navy. I ended up in Vietnam. How ironic is that?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird story. I mean, but I really feel good that I enlisted, because a lot of my friends went to Canada or went to Mexico or just disappeared. So even though the war in Vietnam was useless, and I feel like I served my service. And when I came home too, I really felt guilty for a long time that I came home alive, because I met a lot of guys over there that were 18 years old. Some had alive, some were 17, and they lasted about 2 weeks. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off like that.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's
because I know more about this than I do a lot about Vietnam. Maybe I blocked it out. I can give you a few details as much as I can.
Yeah. So what year did you get sent to Vietnam?
Okay, I went to boot camp in I think January or February of '69, and I spent I guess it was 3 weeks or 2 months. I forget how long boot camp was. And then I went from there. I went to. They asked me what I wanted to do. I said, well, I like to be. I know engines and stuff. So we need machinist mates, which is like an engineman. So I said, okay, I'll do that. And so they sent me to machinist mates engineman school in Great Lakes, Illinois, in maybe it would be April or May, sometime. You could look on my DDT 14 with X of these. So then I was there for like 2 or 3 months to July, and then August. We graduated in August. I remember people were talking about Woodstock, because this is the summer of Woodstock. And I'm in Illinois. Oh, no. Take that back. Okay, so then I got my orders at the end of July or August. I'm going to Vietnam. That's where my orders were. I thought I was going to be on a ship, but no, they needed instrument machinist mates in Vietnam for certain tasks. I didn't know at the time what it was. Stop it, Riley. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I could put him outside if he's bothering me too much.
Okay.
So I remember I called my mom because I was telling her, yeah, I'm graduating. And she goes, oh, did you get your orders? I go, yeah, I'm going to Da Nang. She goes, what ship is Da Nang? I go, Mom, that's Vietnam. And there was silence. My dad picked up the phone and said, what'd you say to your mom? She went to the floor. She passed out. When she thought about Vietnam. Sorry. Missed my mom. Anyway, so then they sent me to Virginia for CI training. That's what, we didn't know what it was. They didn't tell us anything about it. What it was they prepared us for the jungle in Vietnam if we got captured. We found this out after we were there. They didn't want to tell us too much because they didn't want to give it away. So what they did is they put us out they have an area in Virginia, I forget exactly where, it's near the naval base there. Remember, you used to remember the name of the place. But anyway, it was in Virginia. And the first thing I remember about it, I've never been back east before. I didn't know what humidity was like. When I stepped off that plane, and this was like in August, I think the first part of August. Yeah, it was the first part of August I got there, because Woodstock was at the end of the month, so that's why I was talking about Woodstock. I'll get to that point in a minute. And I got off the plane, it was like only 80 degrees, but it was like 90% humidity. I couldn't breathe, okay? I just, I started sweating. I'd never been in that kind of weather. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been back east. It's really unbelievable, the humidity. It takes a long time to get used to it. So they took us to this place and said, well, you're going to go out and go on like a camping trip. And they gave us a bar of soap, toothbrush, a candy bar, and they gave us a chicken, okay? We didn't understand what the freaking chicken was for. And so they just said, they gave us a compass and directions, said, you're on your own for 3 weeks to see if you can survive. So we thought, well, we just have to survive. But what it was is for the first 2 weeks, we had to do whatever we could to get food from they had the candy bar. A lot of guys ate their toothpaste because they were getting hungry. And we cooked the chicken. I didn't want to do that, but we broiled the chicken, killed it and broiled it. And so this was like for 2 weeks, and we're just hiking and sleeping on the ground. We didn't even have anything to sleep on. We had to make whatever we could. And I lost about 20 pounds, okay, because I can lose weight really fast. I mean, I've lost like 8 pounds in a couple weeks since I bought my bike. Well, the wife doesn't understand how I can lose it so fast. It's just because I eat like a horse, but I still. But anyway, so at the end of this thing, after 2 weeks, all of a sudden we were just kind of walking along, and all of a sudden these guys come out of the woods dressed up like Viet Cong. And we didn't know what's going on. We're scared to death. And they came and they put us in handcuffs and made us take our clothes off and our shoes, and they marched us to this area. And there was like shells all over the ground. We're walking on these things. Our feet are bleeding and stuff. And then all of a sudden it says, it's like a prisoner of war camp. That's exactly, these guys look like real Vietnamese. I mean, these are Marines that were in on this, but they were dressed as Viet Cong. And I mean, now I'm starting to sweat. I mean, it's real. Guys are crying for their mother, and one guy broke his arm, and one guy had a heart attack. I mean, it's real.
Yeah.
They take us in these rooms and start trying to interrogate, because you're only supposed to give your name, rank, and serial number, and that's all you're supposed to give. And they started beating guys, and they had these little boxes that they put you in, just enough to cover you up and make you sit in there. And I mean, it's hot outside. It's like 90 degrees and that humidity and that. And I didn't know what's going on. And this lasted for like 8 hours. And then I didn't give them anything. I didn't talk to them. I just gave my name, rank. They kept asking me and hit me and stuff. So they stopped that, and then they took me to another room, and they were real nice. They gave me a cigarette and a candy bar and asked me some butter, and I freaking opened up. That's exactly what they want you to do. They tried to, I survived the strong thing, but when they got real nice to me, I thought, well, you know, so. But anyway, it ended. We all graduated from that, and that's when I found out about a lot of these guys were going to Woodstock, and they actually went AWOL because they never, after that, they just left. They didn't want to go to Vietnam. So, you know, we're only 100 miles away from Woodstock, from in Virginia for New York. So anyway, that's my story about Woodstock. That was never there, but I'm glad I didn't go. And then I went home, and I think I got 30 days off, and then in November of '69 is when I left for Vietnam.
Okay. What unit were you with in Vietnam?
I was with, I don't really remember exactly, but because when I first got there, and that's another story. When we flew on DC-8 commercial airlines back then.
Yeah.
It took us 25 hours to get there because you had to stop. We had to stop in Hawaii, in Guam, in the Philippines. Because a plane wouldn't go very far, you know, for fuel. So we finally, the last leg, we ended up in Da Nang. That wasn't my final destination, but that's the main air base to land. But when we landed, they were bombing the airport. So the plane couldn't stop. They dropped those, like if you were in the water, the plane lands on the water, they drop those things so you can slide down. They're like big rafts.
Yeah.
They said, as the plane was starting to land, they said, we're not going to be able to stop this plane. You're going to have to get off the plane while we're still taxiing. Grab your sea bag, slide down that thing, and welcome to Vietnam and find a bunker. And now I'm starting to cry, okay? I didn't know what's going on. I mean, I'm scared to death. I mean, I didn't ask for the real thing about Vietnam didn't sink until we actually landed. And then I started to realize I'm in a war zone. After that, you know, then I'm a little foggy of what happened after that, but I mean, the bombing stopped and we moved around, and then they sent me up to Phu Bai, it's the base where they ran PBRs up and down the river, and that's what I ended up doing. Is I was an engineman because I knew I was a machinist, but they, you know, I knew it would work on engines, so these things have diesel engines on them. These PBR, they're little fiberglass boats that I don't know if you ever saw the movie Apocalypse Now. That's what those boats, that's what that whole movie's about, really. The guys going up and down that Perfume River. That's the river we were on, and I worked on those boats. And we were also the fuel farm. So all the fuel, there's the fuel ships would go out. They had these pipes like 20 miles out because if they weren't that far, the Viet Cong were bombing them. So they pumped all that fuel into these tanks on the farm I was on. So we were kind of safe in the reason that they wouldn't bomb us completely because they were stealing the fuel. They were stealing like 10% of the avgas and diesel fuel. I don't know what they were using for. I guess their equipment. So we were kind of safe for that, but they would still throw rockets at us at night, just to let us know they're still around. Because I remember one night, I mean, this is way before both of your time. The little cassette recorders, you remember? You ever heard of seeing those? Yeah. Those little really things. You record a cassette and send it and somebody would play. So I'm recording it one night to my mom, and I'm so used to them dropping these things at night, it didn't bother me because they were really near us. They would just make a lot of noise. And my mom heard that in the background, and she wrote me like, "Oh my God, you're being bombed." You know, she still didn't understand what's going on. And I said, "Look, this is just a natural thing that happens every night." So that's really what I did for, you know, almost a year. And then I came home and they put me on that ship I showed you. And there was too many. We put it in the commission. And I guess I was on it for like 6 months, and there was too many second class. Now, I got over there, it was E3, and then I became E5. Just they automatically moved you up a rank. So I was E5. That was second class machinist mate. There was too many on that ship, so they sent me back to Vietnam on an old destroyer, the DD-869. It was Admiral Zumwalt's first command. I mean, this thing was held together by buckets, by bubble gum and twist ties. It was so old that, I mean, it was just unbelievable. In fact, it took me almost 2 months to find it because we didn't know where it was. They sent me to Philippines to get on the ship, but I was in Subic Bay for like 2 months, and then they finally put me on an oiler, and we had to go, because it was in dry dock, but it left before they knew I was supposed to go on it. So they put me on this oiler, and for 2 months they had to search for it because it was on a secret mission. So they didn't know where it was. They had to. I mean, I was going in the Atlantic or the South Pacific, whatever it was, and an oiler, a little bitty oiler. And man, we're just going like this. I remember getting sick every night. You know, I was taking Dramamine. It was unbelievable. So finally, we found it, and I stayed on that for another year and a half, bombing Vietnam from about 20 miles out. And then my dad had a heart attack, so I came home early, got out early. And let's see, my 72, April of 72 would be 4 years, so what is 6 months before that? About November, October 71, that's when I came home, and they gave me an early out then. So that's my whole naval career right there. So I didn't really get much on a ship. Another thing, I flew back and forth to Vietnam, you know, all that time, at least 3 or 4 times. But I remember my 21st birthday, I left the day before my birthday and got to the Philippines the day after my birthday, crossing the equator. So I never really celebrated 21st birthday. So I normally should only be 73 instead of 74. I know it's kind of, I know I got it. When you make a quick move, you just, no, stop it. I know I rambled on there, but I just thought I'd give you some of the stuff that happened to me. That's the stuff I really remember.
Yeah.
I looked for some pictures of me. I couldn't find them. It shows me shooting my M16 and doing stuff like that. But, you know, just, I really don't need to see that stuff. It kind of gives me, I'll be honest, I'll probably have some nightmares tonight. It's not your fault. It's just that when I watch, it's hard for me to watch movies about Vietnam, you know, because it flashes back stuff. It just, I thought I had PTSD. I really do think I have PTSD, but I'm not real bad. I'm not trying to kill people. I'm not crazy or anything. I went to 4 shrinks, and all of them said, no, you don't have it. But they gave me a sedative to take for years. Why would you give somebody some medicine if you don't have PTSD? The government is kind of weird, but I appreciate it. They give me all, I'm a diabetic, and I have high blood pressure, I have high sugar levels, I have a bad thyroid, I have neuropathy, and they pay for all that medicine. So that's one good thing I like, you know. And now I'm 100%, so I'm getting like $4,500 a month from the government tax-free. So there is some benefits, and I would trade this, you know, this stroke for anybody. You know, it's changed my whole life. I really can't do much. I can still drive, I can still walk, I can still talk, but you know, I'm limited. My right side is still kind of jacked up. You know, I can't really use my right hand. But I'm not. This is the deck I was dealt with, and I'm a fighter. So I made it to 74. I never thought I would. So I'm here, and I'm really thankful I could tell my story to you, and hopefully you'll learn something from this and pass it on. You know, I want to leave this work better than I came in. That's how I look at it. Yeah. I know I haven't had a really good life. I've made a lot of mistakes, wasted a lot of money, did a lot of things I'm not proud of, but you know, I never went to jail. I didn't kill anybody, you know, so I've lived a pretty good life. Maybe things would have been better. got a great wife now. The third one, first two were, that were practice, I looked at.
When you came back from Vietnam, what was the treatment of the troops coming back?
Well,
What you remember?
again, the part I remember is that they really treated us. I didn't really talk about it, okay? Only my close friends knew I went to Vietnam. I remember seeing stories. I was never treated this way, but I heard stories about guys were, they said we're baby killers, and I remember all the 68 and 69 when I was over there. I saw all the protests going on, all the anti-war stuff. And, I knew it was not a good thing, and then the way we left Vietnam, we just left, and it just was taken over by the communists. We didn't really do anything. We left a lot of people over there, and we left all the equipment. And
How do you, present day you, how do you now view Vietnam as a war in general?
just what I remember, like I said, I think it was a waste of time and money and human life. Okay, 58,000 GIs gave their life for what? We never accomplished anything. It's still, the country it's a lot better today now, but from the 70s to probably the 2000s, the communists ran the country until they finally, the Vietnamese people took the country back. I don't like the fact that they changed Saigon to Ho Chi Minh City, okay? Because Ho Chi Minh City was part of the Viet Cong, okay? That trail goes between North and South Vietnam. I wish they would have left it Saigon, but they changed the name. That's the only thing I don't really like. But I'd like to go back and see, the country now compared to what it was back in the 60s. I met so many. I didn't really try to make any friends, okay? Because you didn't know if they would. We'd send out 3 or 4 boats, maybe one would come back, or none come back, or all of them come back. You didn't know. They were like on an 8-hour mission because like I said, it was a fiberglass boat. You could sink it with an AK-47, just shoot below the water line. They did little bitty bilge pumps on that thing. They couldn't, the water would thing would sink. Or they'd throw a anti-tank missile at it, would blow right out of the water. They had a 50 caliber machine gun on there, but you could only keep so many rounds because that 50 caliber ammo was really heavy. You could carry maybe 2,000 rounds that maybe lasted 10 minutes.
Yeah,
And
the gun can also overheat after a while.
Exactly. So it was war as hell. And then the other thing is I don't like to talk about it too much, but napalm. That was really ugly. You see how wide the park is out there, and it would even do it more than that. You dropped the napalm out there, it would wipe out everything within a mile. Mm-hmm. Just disintegrate it, just like it would vaporize. But it worked though. You call those F-15s in, and they had a really weird smell to it. It was like diesel fuel, avgas, just a pungent smell. You could smell that napalm, but it was effective. It would wipe out a whole area where all the problem is that the Viet Cong were like tunnel rats. They had an underground system, thousands and thousands of miles to the whole country. So they'd pop up like moles. You shoot at them. The trees were so thick. Have you ever heard this? You can't see the forest for the trees. Well, imagine the water line on the Perfume River. The trees were right there at the water line. They were so thick that you could stand there maybe a foot inside there, you'd never see it. So they would be shooting at you. All you would see is the muzzle flash from their guns. And then they'd be there, and then they'd be there. They were just underground. So the Marines and the Army guys had to go in these and shoot flamethrowers down these tunnels to try to flush them out. But you could only do so much. It was a war that we were never trained for. We didn't know that it's called an insurgency war, where you're a jungle warfare. We've never fought something like that. That's why so many Marines and Army guys died, because they didn't know how to do it. Plus, a lot of them were on drugs. It's the only way they could survive over there. The whole country was full of poppy. That's what they made heroin out of. So heroin was easy to get. And some of these guys that's the only way they could survive. They had to be on drugs. You're seeing dead people all over the place, and if you had an enemy, you made sure they was in front of you. Because a lot of them, there was a lot of racism over there. I learned about racism in Vietnam, not here in California. I was in a mess hall in Da Nang, and there was white guys on one side and black guys on the other. I didn't understand that. I mean, I'm not being stupid. There was no seats so I went to sit with the black people, and they go, "What are you doing here, honk? Get over there with your people." These are Americans, okay? So there was a lot of stuff going on over there that people probably don't know about. So, you know, if you had an enemy, you made sure that he was in front of you and you're on your own side. A lot of guys got shot from that. It's really sad.
Well, you pretty much answered all my questions.
Okay, I hope I did. I like I said, my time over there, I don't remember a lot, but I remembered what I could, and you know, I've been thinking about it for 2 or 3 days, hoping I could ace this. It's like a job interview. I just want you to leave today knowing a little bit more about me than you came, and I know I threw in my stroke, but that's, you know, it's part of, you know, I have Agent Orange in my body, and they say that is part of that, but I really believe, because I lived in Vegas for like 6 years, and I burned the candle at both ends. I didn't get a lot of sleep. And not getting a lot of sleep if you're a diabetic, or even not being a diabetic, can affect having a stroke, because it affects something in your body. So you can't throw in Agent Orange, being a diabetic, and maybe not a lot of sleep. That could have been the reason I had my stroke.